crafters, welcome back and thanks for joining me. This is Jana with Purple Greb Crafts. Today we're going to be making this trifold card. This trifold card, when you do open it, it has a pop-up that pops up or down, and it displays kind of like a little box. This card requires no die cuts. And on the inside, I could have put some more decorations, but I left it kind of like this is the first one I tried. I just wanted to see if the pop-up would work. And then I did add that little window just so to use a peekaboo. So let's just get started. So the first thing we need is we're going to need our scoreboard, and our first piece, this is going to be cut at 12 inches by 10 inches. Turn it back on the 12-inch side, and we are going to score this at 4 inches and 8 inches. Then you're going to turn it on the side, and you're going to score this at 6 inches. And score all the way down. So then we will need two pieces, and these are going to be cut at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. Then you will need one piece. This will be 1 inch. You only need to be about 4 1/2, but this was a scrap piece I had from the other cuts, so I just left it. And then we're going to score this at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. And while I have it, I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm just going to cut off just so it's about 4 1/2, about there. Doesn't need to be 5 inches, so we can just leave it at the 4, just a little over 4 1/2. All right, so we'll move those out of the way for now. We're done with our scoreboard for right now. And we're going to take our trimmer and we're going to do some cuts. So on here, we're going to cut on that one side, on the 10-inch side, where we did our scoring. We're going to go from the bottom to that first score line. Then you're going to lift up your blade and move it down to that second score line and then cut to the end. So this is what you should have. Then we're going to turn it back on the 12-inch side. We're going to line up that first mark. And this time I'm going to go from the bottom to the top, and I'm just going to cut out to that first score mark again. So we're just going to cut out those corners. So that piece is gone. And then we'll put it on the other score mark. And again, cut from the bottom to that score mark. So you should have a T-shaped card now. Then we're going to turn it onto the bigger side. We're going to line it up at 1 inch. And we are going to cut this. We're going to cut those little windows out. So we're going to start at the end. We're going to take our blade to the 10 1/2 inch mark, and we're going to cut 1 inch, so down to the 9 1/2 inch mark. Then lift up your blade. We're going to go down to the 2 1/2 inch mark, and we're going to cut down to 1 1/2. Lift your paper, and we're going to move this down 1 inch. So we're going to cut a 1 inch box. Do the same thing. Start at 10 1/2, go down to 9 1/2, lift it up, start at 2 1/2, and go down to 1 1/2. Then you're going to cut these boxes out. So whichever way is easier for you. So I'm going to turn my trimmer back so I can see it just a little bit. And then let me turn it this way to make it easier. So we're going to just line up those edges of those two cut lines, the first ones we did, and we're going to cut between those lines. Then you're just going to move it over and then cut the other side. So you're cutting out that little window. Then move your paper all the way to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. So we're just going to cut between those two lines. All right, then while this is here, what we're going to do is we're going to cut one edge. So on the right side of the paper, we're just going to cut about a 1/16 of an inch off, just so that it doesn't overlay on the other one and it folds flat. So we're just getting rid of just a little sliver of the side of the card. All right, so we're going to move our trimmer out of the way for a few minutes. We will use it again. And we're going to turn this over so it's on the inside of the card or the back side. And we're going to glue these down. But on one of those pieces, you are going to glue, and you want to do it on the same side that we just did it on. But you want to do the same thing. Trim off this one of these layered papers. Just trim it off so that it'll fit. Now, when I flip the card over, it's now on the left side, but it's the right side of the card. So we're going to glue these two pieces down. And then we'll cut out those windows with an X-Acto knife, or you could use your trimmer, whichever one you're more comfortable with. All right, so we have those two down. Okay, now this is the inside of the card. So we're going to cut the windows. And you can make these bigger. You can make this a 2-inch window, whatever. I just did enough just so that his little eyes were peeking out. I just thought that would be cute, but you can definitely make this window any size that you want. All right. Almost missed that one just a little bit. Let me just recut this one. Okay, that's better. All right, then what we're going to do is we're just going to fold these. So you want to fold in your flaps. And then just crease those out. You do want to make sure the edges are even. And you close that, you'll see it will line up. And then also fold in that bottom one and crease that one out. All right, so we also need to cut, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to cut the bottom piece also. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to cut a sliver of it off just so it folds nicely and it fits inside the card. Since we're doing a layered fold, it just helps so that it's just a little bit smaller. This one I'm going to turn the other way just to make it easier to see. Again, I'm just lining it up to be about 1/8 of an inch, just 1/16 of an inch off. It's not much. It's just a little sliver just to make it lay flat. Right, and then you can just tear these off, or you can use your knife just to pull them off. Either one's fine. All right, so that part is done. Now for the inside of the card, we're going to glue this so it has a moment to dry before we use it. And again, the easiest way is just to fold it flat, secure that glue, and then once the glue has grabbed, just go ahead and crease out all those folds so that you've got a nice crisp box. All right, so this will sit in the center, but before we put this down, we're going to put our pattern paper on here. So this is the same that's going to be on the front of the card. And again, this one is 3/4 of an inch by 3/4, but it's a little bit smaller because I did cut those sides off. So you might want to cut it just a little bit smaller. All right, so we're just going to put that down on this side. And then for our little pop-up, we're just going to put that right in the center. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got the glue or the crease on the bottom. And then I'll put glue on 2 sides of this. And then just close it on itself. It's a little bit off, but it'll be fine. All right, now for the fence. So this, I've just laid these pieces out, and I should have done this one piece in the center. I should have done that before I put the pop-up on, but I didn't. And I'm just lining these up to make sure I've got enough gap between them and that they're evenly spaced. Now, you don't have to do this part. You could do pattern paper. You could do any kind of paper that you wanted. Then I'm just going to put glue just on the 2 sides of the fence where I'm going to put the center pieces. And just for this first part, I'm just going to show you. So I'm just making sure that I've got enough clearance on the side. And then how much gap I want between them. Now, I didn't do the center pieces between the folds because I didn't want it to get too bulky. So I did not put any on there, and you'll see that in a second. I'm just only going to put these on the 3 panels and not over the center fold. So once you have them lined up where you want, I'm just going to put glue on another one. I'm going to grab 2 more of the pieces. Now these don't have to be even because the center one is going to hide it. Do want to make sure they're a little bit straight. So we'll line those up right about there, and then this one will just be set just like that. So I'm going to speed up the video for this section. I just wanted to show you how I laid these out and how I secured them down. I did not put any of the side piece or the center pieces through the center of the card because I didn't want them to interfere with the folds. So I left those blank. And then here I'm just trying to figure out if I want them there and I don't like it there. So I laid this one on top just to get the glue lines and get the sections even. And then I'm just going to continue just to glue these all the way through. Again, making sure that they are centered inside each other. I did put one piece on there and put it through the bottom so it doesn't look as much of a gap. And then again, I'm just lining these up with the glue so I can make sure they're straight. And then just securing these pieces down. You know, you could use you could use pattern paper. You don't have to do the fence. I just like the fence on here. I could have added some trees just to give it just a little bit more. All right, so that part is done. Then for the pop-up, I've got the little cat in the can. And I want to make sure that when I glue it down, so he's not secure, he's just taped down just so I could see if he would fit. I'm going to put glue just on this one piece, just on that one flap. And then we're going to secure the trash can to there. And then for the cat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that his face is showing through the window. So I'm going to put him down. Actually, let me just close it just to make it easier. So I'm just going to kind of just see where he goes and then put this down. I'm going to turn this just so I can see it just a little bit better. And I want to make sure that just his eyes are peering through. So I'm going to use my poker just so I can move it around just a little bit just to get it where I want it. I want just his eyes and part of his face showing. So I'm going to open the card. I'm going to hold that so it doesn't move. And then I'm just going to put glue just on that bottom, just so that I've got him secure where I want him. I am using the wet glue so that if I need to move it before it dries, I can move it. So I'm just going to move him back over. He slid just a little bit. So I like him right there. And then as you can see, when you close the card, just his eyes are peering through. And again, the window could have been bigger. I just wanted it just that little bit just to see if it would work. All right. Make sure I didn't get any glue on there. And make sure he is secure. All right, that looks good right there. Feels like I got just a little bit of glue on here. So let me just grab my eraser and just to make sure it doesn't stick to there. All right. So then for the inside, you can see, so you want to make sure when you close this, you're closing the right panel, then the left panel. And then for the front, I've got just checking in, but on the bottom, I'm going to take one of those pieces that we cut off earlier because it's the same size and it's the blue. And I'm just going to put it just on this piece, just so this piece has some color when you're first opening the card. Right. All right, so this just peeking in, this will be on the front of the card. So we're going to close this again, and it's just going to sit right here. I might just put it at an angle. So we're going to glue that piece down. And then for the inside, I have just a missing U, and I cut this at an angle just to fit in there. And I just used a rubber stamp just to do the missing U. So we'll put this just on the inside of the card, just right about there. Perfect. Right, so that is the card that we made today. I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Until next time, happy crafting. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.